I'm Eve Stevens, editor of Movement.net, and I'm here at Move 2026 speaking to some of the inspiring voices shaping the auto tech industry. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Avinash Balachandran, Vice President of Toyota Research Institute. So Avinash, how are you today? How are you enjoying your Move 2026 experience so far?
I'm doing very well. It's nice to be here with you, Eve. I've had a really interesting time. I enjoyed my keynote. I enjoyed the keynotes that came before me. And I've really enjoyed walking the floor, which I think has brought a lot of value to me, understanding different perspectives.
Absolutely, that's what we like to hear. And here at Move, we're very passionate about the importance of cross-industry collaborative events such as Move. Why have you chosen to speak at Move today? Why do you think these kind of events are worthwhile?
Yeah, so at TRI, Toyota Research Institute, one of our key tenets is what we call use-inspired research. And a key way to get to use-inspired research is to actually meet people, understand use cases, understand needs. And I think that's really what Move is bringing here. And in particular, like you said, because of its interdisciplinary nature, we can get kind of a broad spectrum of all the different things that people are thinking about the future. And that really can help us feed into the research. Also helps us validate some of the things that we're thinking about as well. So we can share our ideas and get that input. And just as an interesting story, we meet a lot of people from Europe here as well, but this has been a great conference to meet a lot of people from back home. We've met a bunch of people from California and the US as well. So it's really that global stage. I met some people from China as well. That makes it very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And even I know there's other people from Toyota, maybe in different teams. So it's really exciting to get people all in one room. Absolutely. Yeah. So speaking on the main stage today, I want to reflect maybe on, automotive is such a rapidly changing industry. There's so much emerging technology. Is there anything at the moment that is particularly exciting you in the mobility space in terms of technology that you think we should all be talking about?
Yeah, so I think obviously what's on everybody's minds are AVs, autonomous vehicles, and robotaxis. I think we're seeing a lot of great strides in that direction, lots of interesting deployments across the world. Like I mentioned on stage, at Toyota, we're a company that is the largest car company by sales volume every year. We sell millions of cars to our customers all over the world. And so we really ask kind of a little bit of a different question, which is, how do we add value to our customers who are driving in places that don't have robotaxis, but bring the benefits of autonomy to them earlier and sooner? And so I think one of the most interesting things I've been looking at is how can we bring sort of advanced assistance systems where drivers continue to drive, but the AI is there to monitor, to check, to keep them safe, to make the experience more engaging, and looking at new ways we can create value. If you think about how you and I have thought about driving, it's probably been more or less the same for the last century. And now with all these new technologies, autonomy, agentic systems, voice AI, AR, how can we rethink that entire mobility experience? And I think that's what I'm most excited about.
Yes, definitely. And I love the attitude of having the kind of consumer at the center rather than technology for technology's sake. It's about how do we kind of solve real world issues. Absolutely. Now, you kind of briefly mentioned that AI. Obviously, AI has been a huge topic at this conference. I want to know, what is Toyota's approach to AI? You speak on this idea of human-centered AI, yep. AI that kind of complements humans rather than acting kind of to replace them. Can you speak a little bit more on the ways that Toyota Research Institute is embracing AI in your operations?
Yeah, thank you. So I think our philosophy around AI really draws from Toyota's core philosophy, which is over a century old, which is really looking at how technology can amplify rather than replace people. Now, if you go back in our history to before Toyota was a car company, we actually made automatic looms. And what we built through those innovations is actually systems that allow the loom operator to focus on the more important tasks of making sure the cloth comes out well, rather than on the sort of mundane tasks of finding these errors in the string. And so we're taking that same philosophy to driving as well as other things like robotics, which is how do we think about AI working together with people to help them kind of get beyond sort of the dull, the dangerous, the dirty tasks, and allow them to kind of focus on where they can add the most value, where that value brings them the most joy, and really kind of make it human-centered. And so with driving, for example, while a lot of the interest has been on replacing human tasks, at Toyota, we're really looking at how we can use human drivers and this AI in the vehicle to work together to, for example, through our Driving Sensei program, use AI to actually teach you to be a better driver over time. Similarly, in robotics, we are looking at the inverse of that. Rather than thinking of just robots replacing human tasks, we're looking at ways in which people can, through physical demonstrations, teach robots to do kind of mundane parts of their daily work so they can focus on other things. So once again, our focus has really been on how AI and people can work together, and in particular, through natural and intuitive interactions, be able to share and grow their skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely thinking about how technology can complement rather than replace is really important. I want to speak now about autonomy. Obviously, you mentioned AVs. It feels like a real inflection point in 2026 now. The technology is very much here, and we're beginning to see things really starting to scale. How do you kind of see the biggest benefit of autonomy for the consumer? What do you think autonomy kind of opens up in the world of mobility?
Yeah, so with talking about fully driverless vehicles, I think there's so many interesting explorations that you can do to create new value for the customer. One thing that we're seeing is that a robotaxi without a driver, many people consider a significantly different experience than one with. And so, for example, people may feel a little bit safer in cars where they don't have a driver. If you're a young person coming back at night or whatever, this might be a good thing. The other kind of experience here is you can create really unique, customizable environments in the car as well. You can rethink your commute in a way that is a little bit different. So now maybe it's not such a drag, but you're able to get work done or be able to kind of explore, other things that you're trying to do in that same time frame. And so I think that's all these interesting ways we can think about mobility when you don't have to actually physically do the act of driving. That's pretty interesting to explore. I think one kind of maybe more out there idea is driving is actually interestingly a task that is very social, but we tend to do alone, all of us in our own cars. And maybe with technologies like autonomy, where cars are able to drive themselves, as well as some sort of vehicle to vehicle or vehicle to infrastructure communication, we can kind of change that, make it more of a social activity. And so they're kind of really interesting avenues that get opened up if we are able to take us, people, out of the driving loop and have us kind of explore different ways in which we can enhance our connection to each other.
Absolutely. And I think autonomy really changes the very kind of notion of what a vehicle is. And as you said, we're kind of moving away from just something that gets us from A to B, but it could be a space to socialize, it could be a space to work, to rest. So the implications are definitely really huge. I wanted to focus a little bit on your own career. You've had a very impressive career. You were an early developer working on Uber's self-driving program. I guess my question is, what kind of interested you in working in intelligent mobility? What's your kind of drive? Are you passionate about automotive, or where does that passion lie?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think I really reflect back on me starting and getting into college and working on these kinds of systems. I think really what I'm passionate about is this intersection of people and new technology. And I think as I was really starting out, that new technology, the next frontier was really in intelligent machines. And so I kind of got into sort of robotics and cars and things like that. And beyond that, I have a personal interest in driving. I love doing it. I love that enjoyment. And so it kind of was this natural fit. This industry, was really, accelerating with AI, autonomy, etc. And I was interested in how do we keep kind of the human elements of it important. Mobility, throughout human history has been such a core part of how we think of ourselves, how we interact with people. And I wanted to preserve that and see how we can bring these technologies that still had that kind of human aspect in them. And I think that's really what motivates me.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping the kind of consumer and the human at the center is really important. Just as we move now into our last few moments, what's on the horizon now for Toyota Research Institute? As we kind of look into the next 12, 24 months, what is a kind of key priority for the institution?
Yeah, so I think we are really pushing on a bunch of different fronts, but generally, we are very excited to continue pushing in our groundbreaking work in physical AI. TRI was actually one of the world leaders and creators of large behavior models, which are actually the precursor to what is known today as vision language action models, or VLAs. This is the foundation of many robotic innovations currently, and also in AVs as well. And we want to push more on that kind of technology. We're looking at how we can take our learnings from our development of autonomous vehicle and move it beyond to other kinds of mobility, perhaps micromobility, and also into robotics, where we can think about robotics in the factory as well as general robotics outside the factory. Generally, all of this, what we're focusing on is how do we keep the human at the center of that, keep these technologies in a way that people can interact with them intuitively and interact with them in a way that builds trust and transparency so that these technologies can be adopted and we can easily kind of find ways to fit them into our lives.
Super exciting stuff. Absolutely. We'll be definitely following along closely. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Avinash, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you so much, Eve.